Back at it again. You may be able to hear the saw running downstairs. So it's lunchtime. I'm in between meetings. So get a little half hour up here and get out of the way of the guys downstairs that are doing a little project work for us. So I might get interrupted. We'll see. I am trying to mix a green for the highlight on Chase's jacket here. And I'll probably need to make it lighter than it looks because, as you see, acrylics dry darker. You know, not really much need for me to talk. You see what I'm doing, so I do have my Bluetooth mic on, so we'll see if that's any better. It sounded, I did review yesterday's, and because my face is a few inches from the phone, it did sound okay. So this may not be needed, I don't know. I would think it's got to be as good, but maybe not. Let's see. So I will put reshape that a little bit. I'll put that shadow underneath there and make that make more sense. And again, I'm looking there. I'm married to that, and 90% of the painting, that's what I do. I just become a slave to the subject, and I really try hard to not think that I'm painting a person or painting a jacket. I'm really just looking at these shapes here and trying to make them read okay. And it's not important that I get it perfect like that, but close. While I've got this color, now I don't want to necessarily duplicate that exact color up here, even though it may be the exact color, just for interest's sake. Add a little bit more yellow and a few little splotches. Splotches is probably a word, isn't it? Notice across, our drive is here. Notice that is a little bit, I'll say yellower. It's a little bit different than the rest of this grass. So let me just put that in there, lose that right there on that edge. Probably pretty accurate. I'll just feather that just a little bit right there because I kind of see it. And I don't want to draw too much interest back here, but there is stuff going on back there. And all this is just a matter of looking around. I know I've got a lot to do, and you just kind of decide what's next. What's the next thing that's bothering me that I really need to go ahead and address right now. So let me get a bright, that is a flat brush that's shorter, get a little more control on it, and you'll see why. And I don't use these very often because I don't do a ton of architecture. There's always going to be some in a painting or some paintings, but to get a sharp, a little bit crisper edge, that's a little helpful. Now you could use a knife if you want a palette knife or what have you, but no, not really a need. Just need to make, there's a tree right in front of there, which is kind of weird. Not design-wise, not ideal. Now I'm shrinking this, you see, because there's more space here. But to make that roof pitch look right, here's a great, I'll say a teaching point, but it's your artistic license, some instructors would call it. I want this to read correctly. That's what's most important to me. Not technically whether this distance here I've matched perfectly, because you see this is probably twice the distance. Is it going to make or break this painting? Absolutely not. Nobody cares about that. So I'm just going to stick with that. Now that's bright. I need to probably make it brighter. There's a little bit of that next building, I'll say, is there. But that rooftop here is not as bright. Value-wise, it's a little darker than that. And you see there's some gradation here. So this is a little bit, a smidge lighter in value than that. And it's just because of the reflection off of the water. It's pretty important that I think about those things. So yeah, I'm definitely going to have to go brighter on that, but because that paint's wet, I want to let it dry. I don't want to, if I picked up white or a lighter color and went over it, I'm going to pull up some of that. So we don't want to do that. Let me think. There is a cool, because this is a cool highlight, I'll call it. This edge is cooler. A little tiny, you know, some would say not very important, but if it's the way I read it, I might as well paint it like that, right? So there's, you know, some of this going on. Again, I'm not married to making that look correctly. I'm more interested, because nobody, when I'm done with this painting, is going to look at that roof necessarily. I want it to be interesting and accurate, but I am not a person at all that cares about making every one of these lines look right. That's not going to make or break this painting. And the more of that detail that in my, this is just the way I paint. I'm not saying everyone should paint that way, but the more detail I put here, or here, or here, or here, it takes away from what I want people to look at. That doesn't mean I'm going to be sloppy and not be accurate, but I want to be looser. I want to be more brushwork, like up in here, right? We know these are trees, and it's fall. So I need to get some fall colors in there, but I'm not going to take a little one-hair brush and paint leaves. That's silly. That's not what's back there. They're just big, broad shapes, and I don't want to put much interest. Some artists, they love the detail, which is fine. They would put telephone pole, and they'd put this little fence and shadows and all kinds of little doors, and that's fine if that's what you want to do as an artist. Not me. Let me think. I'm jumping around here. This stuff, to me, evolves as it evolves. Meaning I'm not caring to go ahead and finish this. I just do it in stages while I got paint on my brush, as you see. So I jump all over the place. The one thing I do want to make sure I get, because I don't have that right now, this part is a little closer to us than this part. So this, and I'm not going to take out a measuring tape or whatever, but this needs to be a little thicker, bigger than this. at least the same size. And as you see, as I'm looking at it, I don't have that. This gets a little skinnier here. So what I'm going to choose to do right now, whether it's the right thing or not, I have an opportunity to make this edge interesting, or at least a little sharper than what I've got it. So I'm going to take a palette knife. Now this is a palette knife that was purchased at an auction in Indiana by a pretty well-known artist up that way. And these are like from the 60s. Very flexible. So this is let me get my other one here. This is a painting knife. They call them palette knives, but it's not. That's not what it is. It's a painting knife. Very flexible, right? Very flexible. This is a palette knife. Very stiff. So this is what artists will do to scrape paint in their palettes, right? They're real, or some oil artists use them to scrape dried paint off there. This is very flimsy. You could cut yourself probably with that. So what I'm going to do, looking at this, you see that is, again, all I see, because I'm brainwashed, as you all know with this, is cools and warms. That's all I see there. So I'm going to take white, thick white paint, no water, and some blue. So I'm going to make a decision to put a nice, I hope it ends up being broken, you never know. I don't want it to be perfect, but I'm going to take a cool color and I mixed it up and I just went whoosh, and picked it up on that furthest edge. So I'm going to, and this is takes bravery, I'm going to try to get this line right. And I may screw it up. I probably will. See, I just think that's cool. Some of the effects you get with the palette knife. And I don't do a lot of, I'm not a big fan of just palette knife paintings. The entire painting was done with a palette knife. And I'm not a fan of paintings that are just done with a brush. I'm an artist that likes a little bit of all of it. Most all of my paintings have a little bit of palette knife, but I'm real selective where I do it. You notice as this is evolving, it's fairly soft edged, but in reality, there's some areas that are soft like this, and then there's some areas like under her arm right here. There's some spots on Matthew. I'm going to be selective on the spots on Chase that had edge, razor sharp, nice sharp. But there's some that's softer, like, you know, you can't really tell where it's tough for me to see where those pants end. And again, so I'm going to leave areas soft, but as this is, as I'm restating, love that term, as I'm continuing to paint and shape them, I'll start putting harder edges. May even take a palette knife, little spots. That's not how that's going to end up, but I want to let that dry. Now I can take this brush that's wet, get some of the water out of it, and just gently ease that edge. Just here and there, I want some of that sharpness. And it's amazing how it won't take much to make that roof line look interesting. Excuse me. Right, so I've made this a little bit bigger, used a palette. Sharp here, a little bit broken, sharp here, a little bit broken. Comes over the, I love that. That's just, whether it's there or not, whether it's, you know, it starts looking like that pretty much, I think. but I just think it makes it look more interesting. Trying to cut that little ridge beam, or I don't know what you call these things, but cut that down a little bit more, make it a little smaller, a little bit large there. Again, is this the right way to do it? For me it is. This is just kind of how I've settled on over the years, how I like it's fun, I hate to say how I like my paintings to end up. Obviously I've done it enough where I know what this is going to look like, because I know me. It's kind of like your handwriting, right? If I go to sign my name, I know what it's going to look like, and I want my paintings to have a lot of my signature in them, where, my brother, my mom, if she looked at these, she could tell one of my paintings from somebody else's. And it's because of some of its technique, some of it's, me choosing to use a palette knife instead of this or that. But for the most part, I think it's, I've been true to me, and this is just how I apply paint. And just like if I was drawing or signing my name, it would be a certain way. Gosh, I'm just yapping. Just not used to this. I don't do this when I paint. But I'm just trying to break areas up a little bit. I don't want that to stand out too much. I may continue to play with this, and I'm sure I will, because I don't want this to take away from this. I now need, and I don't have hardly any water in my brush. It's almost all paint. And I'm just assessing that I want this, and this is just a compositional thing, but this, and I'm squinting, so right, I'm just letting my eyelids close about halfway. I'm not scrunching my forehead up. That hurts. Let your eyes close, relax a little bit. This is about the same value. It's almost exactly the same color, I would say, value-wise, as that, which, they're fine. They're both directly into the sun, but I will probably choose to make this and this and this and this a little bit brighter than that, even if I have to kill that a little bit more than it is, right? It's just choices we make. Just like I fuzz this stuff out more probably than it actually is, because I want it to read. So basically what I'm saying is I want that to be brighter, lighter in value than that. And, they're both, because they're metal, or I guess this is blue painted, but this is metal. It's got a cooler vibe to it. Now you could almost really study this and go, maybe right here it's a little warmer. I don't know if any of that really matters, but I may actually see how that flies. So that, I guess it helps for me to make those noises. Let's see. So he's got his glove. I'm sure he's got a glove on there. My eyes don't work too good, even though I'm wearing my glasses. So I'm not concerned to make these look perfectly like boards. I may put a tiny hint of that in later, but I'm choosing to put the paint in certain areas, even though, this looks like it was recent. I probably had recently painted that because it looks in pretty good shape. That wasn't always like that. So I'm going to choose to put little dabs, but I don't know if it's even picking up, but I don't want to cover every bit of that. I want a little bit of it looking rough. tip of the brush. Tip of the brush. So, I need to go ahead and, well, I don't need to. Well, yeah, I guess I do need to. I want to go ahead and cover these spots. Probably driving y'all nuts. I know some people that are OCD'd. I'm sure I'm driving crazy. And I guess I keep hitting my table or something. I see the camera shaking. I apologize. All right, what are we doing? What are we doing? So I'm going to take, when I try to mix a color, it's probably a good little learning opportunity here. When I try to mix a color, like whatever this is, whatever it is, I just glance at it and say, well, what paint am I going to start with? Right? Remember, I've got yellow, blue, and red. Which one am I going to start? I've also got burnt sienna. So yellow, blue, red, and then burnt sienna, which is that color. That color. So as I look at that, just as a glance, that's what I'm starting with. I just grab pure burnt sienna. What do I mix with it? Well, this needs a little bit, a smidge of white, because it's not that dark. And then I'm going to touch a little bit of blue in it, because remember, those are the opposite. They're opposites. To get something that's close, at least to the shadow part of that. And that's just kind of how I mix colors. Now, is it important that they're perfect? I don't think so. What's important is that they're the right value. How dark are they? How light are they? So anywhere I see that it may be warm, I would put that color, right? But for the most part, I'm just trying to do this. So let's go ahead and fill that in completely with that color. I'm negatively, I'm looking here, I'm negatively painting Chase's face, right? I'm not painting his face, I'm negatively painting it, which is very, very important. So, but I need this stuff, I need to go ahead and cover this because it's been, well, it's not been driving me crazy. But I just keep seeing I need to fix that. This up here above her arm is darker, right? Little tiny details. So I'm gonna mix, still dirty brush, I'm not cleaning my brush out, I'm just grabbing more paint. I'm taking, as always, which is a pretty staple of mine, I'm taking blue and burnt sienna, ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, and making a darker tone. I get quiet when I'm getting serious painting. This, I got, there's a big shadow here, dark shadow. Get rid of that little bump. Let's see, there we go. So there's some orange in there. Now again, is that a big deal to me? If it bothers me, it's a big deal. I've got to negatively paint that out. I know I've got too big of a brush, but that's okay. I should just take a little fine brush, but that's all right. I can fix that when I'm putting that highlight in. And the highlight will get rid of the orange too. I've got it on top of her hat. I don't know if y'all can see that, but right on top of her hat, there's and I want to get a little bit of water, and when I say a little bit, and I know you can't see this, and I don't want to move things, I touch this just like that in the water, and it pulls a little water in. I mean, just a smidge. because I want this to be a little sharper. And while I'm here, do that. Let's see here. So in between, I've got this drawn wrong, or painted. I say drawn because I still think that I'm drawing. I've just got a paintbrush. You know, honestly, it's a pretty good way to think of painting, because I'm always drawing. I'm always, you know, the sketch I had was pretty accurate. You know, I take a little bit of time and make sure I've got them at least in the right place. They're a little bit more than stick figures. But I do that, and then I don't sweat it because I know I'm going to continue to draw them. That was almost purple, wasn't it? Wow. Don't want to introduce purple into the painting. That's funky. I don't know how I got purple. I didn't touch any red. Didn't look like it to me anyway. So let's mix this up again. Let's mix this up again. So a lot of what I'm doing, there's nothing I can tell you, honestly, to make this easier. You're just going to have to do it. You're just going to have to pick up a brush and learn how to apply paint, learn how to do this. Because there's a certain pressure. I rotate the brush. You probably have noticed that. I do. It's a subconscious thing. I really never realized I did it until I would videotape, and it, you know, when I started doing instruction, and I, you know, I put the stroke down, and then the paint gets less and less out of that edge of the brush. So then I rotate the brush and get more paint, and then I can go like that. But I'm rotating the brush, and I'll lay it down and leave it, lay it down and leave it. Sometimes I scrub. All that just comes, I mean, it's not anything I've like learned, you know, those strokes. It's just a long time of picking up paint with a brush and figuring out I need to lay that paint down there. Well, how am I going to do that? How am I going to get this paint where it's thick, where it really covers? I lay it down and I leave it. I don't go back and keep painting. You know, it's not like sometimes we think we're painting a wall or something, and that's not what this is. I kind of like that. I know it's not really there. It's a little too much. Slightly drag. I don't want to cover that. I want there to be some transparency to that. Not sure. We'll see. It's a little loopy, but it's kind of loopy there. I'll clean that up. So I want to make sure there's some areas that are really dark. There's a shadow right there. That's dark. There's some little dark spots around some of this, and I don't really want to cover it all. I want it to look like there's more happening back there than what I'm painting. I want to get in here, there, in between these slats, these boards there. Can't even see it. That's fine. Let's see, I'm going to just touch in here, break that up a little bit. And this is evolving, right? It's not like, I just want you all to realize, it's not like I come down here and I finish this. You've noticed that. So I come down here and I've got a dark on my brush. So let me restate. Let me, and I'm not necessarily trying to draw this stuff exactly like it is, but there are some dark spots that are going to start making this make sense, and it's going to make it pop. Get those shadows a little bit more here in a bit. And I don't know if you can tell, it's almost impossible to think back and tell what that looked like, but that is darker than when I put it on there. It just, they dull a smidge. I love acrylics, but they dull a smidge. So I'm going to actually barely, I mean barely touch into some red. Again, red's so overpowering. I don't want it to be white. Sorry. Same color. It's close enough. Ooh. A little much, a little much, a little much. Matthew's shoe will go on top of some of those, which is good. I like a little bit of a variation in some of these temperatures with this different highlight.